Buttigieg just burned JD Vance.
Do you think that JD Vance is a fascist?
If it's convenient for him to be a fascist, he'll be a fascist. Maybe later on he'll go back to being a Silicon Valley Democrat. He'll be whatever he needs to be.
The accuracy. Is Indiana being the hero that we need right now? Like the most unlikely hero?
The agenda of Washington Republicans is so unpopular that even here in Indiana, they're afraid of losing if they have to run on a fair map. They know that on a fair map, if they get caught taking all the money they took out of Medicaid and giving it to tax cuts for billionaires, they will lose.
Breaking news. Indiana lawmakers say they will not meet next month to discuss redistricting, despite ongoing pressure from Governor Mike Braun and President Donald Trump.
Indiana is not bowing to Donald Trump. And Buttigieg is killing it. He is everywhere. Social media, podcasts, speaking engagements, campaign events. Almost like he's preparing for something. I had the pleasure of working with Mayor Pete many years ago in South Bend, and then again while he was transportation secretary. And it's been really fun to watch him grow and change over the years, especially when Donald Trump has remained exactly the same. Here is Trump in 2020.
Wants to watch Buttigieg. Because it's an unpronounceable name. And they said, here's what you do. Boot, edge. Say edge like the edge of a building. Edge. Boot, edge.
And again in November of 2025.
We had a guy named Buttigieg. Boot, edge, they say is the best way. Just say two edges, like off the edge of a cliff.
Trump goes on in that clip to criticize Buttigieg's time as transportation secretary under Biden. And of course, Pete responded and set the record straight.
Other than mostly pronouncing my name right, everything he said was wrong. He told a story about what's going on with air traffic control, which was both false and confusing. He just made a bunch of shit up about air traffic control. This is a system that was in pretty rough shape by the time he lost in 2020 and we took it over. So we improved it, including launching a long-term communications fix that is still underway that he is now passing off as his idea. And thanks to our work, this year, he became the first president in decades to inherit an air traffic control workforce that was actually growing instead of shrinking.
Pete Buttigieg sat down with Jeffrey Goldberg of The Atlantic at the Texas Tribune Festival, and they had a conversation that lasted over an hour. I encourage you to go watch the whole thing. It's got some really good stuff in there.
Concentrations of wealth always lead to concentrations of power. And we're supposed to have some checks against that in our system. The fact that Elon Musk's vote counts the same as mine, but obviously his power is different because he can deploy huge amounts of money. And the erosion, the destruction really of the guardrails around money in politics is another one of the reasons we are where we are. Interestingly, there's pretty healthy national consensus that we got to do something about that. Now, in the long run, that's going to take a constitutional amendment. We need a constitutional amendment to say that money is not the same thing as speech, and corporations aren't the same thing as people.
Do you think that JD Vance is a fascist?
If it's convenient for him to be a fascist, he'll be a fascist. Maybe later on he'll go back to being a Silicon Valley Democrat. He'll be whatever he needs to be. Right? I mean, this is a guy who went from Donald Trump as Hitler, what he said, to, I have seen the error of my ways. He'll be something new later on.
We really got stuck with the worst Pete possible in this administration, right? We've got Hegseth.
There we go.
There is so much to unpack here. Obviously, a heavy metal sign is not being attached to stone with a handheld Phillips screwdriver. They couldn't even give him a power drill just as a prop so it could go bzz. It's almost like his staff knows, because he's always reeking of whiskey, he can't be trusted with any power tools. I get it. But I think this video is actually giving us a little preview of what Hegseth's return to TV is going to look like when his career with the Trump administration inevitably goes up in flames. He's going to have some kind of DIY show on HGTV where he just goes around with a screwdriver, mimes tightening a screw for the camera, knocks on it and says, hey, I just built that table. DIY with Pete. Huh.
Of all of the very, 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 very many terrible things the president did, the one that is the most dangerous and the most harmful still is going after the integrity of our elections.
Pete's home state of Indiana is making him extra proud to be a Hoosier because Indiana just soundly rejected Trump's attempt to weaken the integrity of our elections.
Senate President Pro Tem Rod Bray says the Senate will not move forward with redrawing Indiana's congressional maps. In a statement, Indiana House Minority Leader Phil Giaquinta says, quote, now that the topic of redistricting is behind us, I look forward to working on bringing down the cost of living for Hoosiers during the upcoming legislative session. Last month, Governor Mike Braun had called for a special session to counteract the actions of blue states. In a statement, Governor Braun says in part, quote, our state senators need to do the right thing to show up to vote for fair maps. Hoosiers deserve to know where their elected officials stand on important issues. Lieutenant Governor Micah Beckwith echoing those sentiments, saying in part, quote, Indiana voters deserve to know where their senators stand. This must be a public vote.
I would say until it's time to file, it's not over.
State Representative Craig Haggard supports redistricting mid-decade. He says he hopes the Indiana House will still get to vote on the issue.
I don't think it's over yet, because I think if people think the White House or other supporters are going to stop at this point, let's wait and see what happens still.
Want to replay that little clip from Representative Haggard right at the end.
I don't think it's over yet, because I think if people think the White House or other supporters are going to stop at this point.
Because of the White House. Haggard did not say, this is not over because we are going to keep fighting to do the right thing for the people of Indiana. He said, this is not over because Trump is going to keep throwing a tantrum about it. And right on cue, Trump took his tantrum over to Truth Social, saying, very disappointed in Indiana State Senate Republicans led by Rhino Senators Rod Bray and Greg Good for not wanting to redistrict their state. Senators Bray, Good, and the others should do their job and do it now. If not, let's get them out of office ASAP. Good time to remind everyone that despite the popular narrative, Indiana votes about 55% for Republicans in statewide elections. And despite those numbers, Republicans already have a ridiculous advantage in the Hoosier state. 82% of Indiana's congressional delegation and 73% of the state house dominated by Republicans. This has never been about representation or fairness. This has always been about cheating and power.
What is wrong with your party?
Well, where do we begin?
Whenever I see Buttigieg speak, I am reminded of this advice from the wise woman who raised Fred Rogers.
My mother used to say, a long time ago, she would say, always look for the helpers.
In this time of chaos and uncertainty, Pete Buttigieg is a helper. He's not a savior, he's a helper. There are legitimate criticisms of Pete Buttigieg within the Democratic Party, but that is true for every candidate in every party ever. We need helpers to get us out of this mess. There is no singular messiah that's going to float down and make everything okay. That's one of the biggest weaknesses of the MAGA movement. They have pinned all of their hopes and dreams onto that glowing porcelain charlatan. But Buttigieg is a needed helper. He is one of many, and many more are going to keep rising to the top, and we need to lift them up. And here at Really American, we are going to keep highlighting the helpers, so be sure you subscribe so you don't miss a moment. And share this video with someone in your life. Let's keep the conversation going. For Really American Media, I am Corinne Straight. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see y'all next time.